Hi, my name is Elizabeth and I'm a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. And today I'm going to share with you some tips to learn to do a full split. So, anytime, there are two kinds of splits. There is a straddle split, which would need a lot of flexibility in the groin, and then there is a front or a frontal split that would require a lot of flexibility in the hamstrings. And with any kind of flexibility goal, you have to continuously work at it. And stretching or gaining flexibility can take a lot of patience. It requires a lot of consistency, and stretching should never hurt. So anytime you feel any pain in your joints, that can potentially injure you and give you a setback. So now I'm going to get into my tips. So you should practice doing whatever split or both splits daily. That doesn't mean forcing yourself into the position. It just means easing your way into it. And you should also create a stretching routine that would target your lower back, hips, groin, and legs. So specifically, it would be the hips, the quads, the hamstrings, and the calves and ankles. If you experience pain in your hips or knees during a center split, you need to tilt your pelvis forward. And by doing so, that will allow you to achieve a deeper split with less pressure on your joints. And again, you don't want to feel pain during stretching. Then you want to make sure you relax your upper body. It's just as important as relaxation in your lower body, because relaxation is the key to any stretch. Then you want to sink your hips and legs into the ground by pressing downward once you've achieved your maximum stretch. So once you've got your muscles taut and it feels like they're pulling and you're as far as you can go, you want to kind of relax your weight downward. So it's very important to be body aware when you're stretching. For a center split, there are two positions possible for your legs, and that would be your knees facing the ceiling or your knees facing forward. And depending on whether your hamstrings or groin muscles are more flexible, you would find one of the positions favorable over the other one. And you might even reach a full split in one versus the other. You can ease the stretch, particularly the front split stretch, by pointing your toes rather than pulling them back towards you. When you point them back towards you, you tighten your calf muscles, and they aren't relaxed. They are flexed when the toe is pointed up. So when they're pointing forwards, they are relaxed. If you point your toes, it will also help you to reach the floor more quickly. And then during a front split, there are two possible positions for your rear leg, and that would be kneecap to the floor or kneecap facing outward. And they stretch different muscles depending on where your kneecap is facing. So you may find that one also helps you to reach the position sooner than the other way. And for both, whether your kneecap's on the floor or facing outward, you need to point your toes back to avoid stressing your knee unnecessarily. And you should choose the one that you feel more comfortable in first. So if you're trying to do both splits, you should ease into the one that you're most comfortable with first. And know that it is more important to have a good quality stretch and split with your legs straight than it is to achieve a deeper split with your knees flexed or with bad form, because with bad form you can really injure yourself. So you want to condition your muscles properly as well. and you want to correct your posture early. You don't want to find yourself able to do a split from a way that compromises your knees and then have to go back and relearn it. Anytime you have a goal, if don't cut corners to save yourself time, because in the long run you don't save time. You have to go back and relearn, and that is a setback. For a deeper stretch, gradually lean your body forward at the waist, supporting yourself with your hands. And then as you progress, you can bring your elbows to the floor. And at max flexibility, you'll be able to bring your chest to the floor. And a really good stretch to help you progress to doing a split, particularly a frontal split, would be a pigeon. And so pigeon pose is used in yoga, and it also starts the same way with the chest lifted, and you can bring it to a dying swan, which is where your chest would meet the floor. So as your hip and outer thigh increase in flexibility, you are able to bend more at the waist. And this is another way it proves that the upper body should be just as relaxed as the lower body during a stretch. And then you want to breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth as you lean forward and sink your hips and legs into the floor. You want to imagine emptying your body of air as you sink into your stretches. And this is a relaxation technique, and it's, again, very important in the stretching process. So now I'd like to talk to you about some body mechanics and some important things to consider when learning to improve your flexibility, particularly when it comes to doing the splits. The absence of pain is not an indication that the way you're moving is correct. So even though I had mentioned earlier that you should never be feeling, severe pain when you're stretching, just because you don't feel pain doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it correct either. So if you feel pain like the next day, that could also be an indication that you're doing things wrong. Because sometimes we are so full of endorphins and great brain chemicals that we don't notice we're in pain. Particularly the endorphins are the ones that reduce the feelings of pain. So at the time that you do something, it might not hurt, but then come the next day, you've got pain in your lower back or your hips or your knees, and that's not a good sign. Then you want to think before you move. Take a mindful approach. Don't do anything that you might regret later that would severely hurt you, especially things like knees. Turning them the wrong way can really mess them up and can result in surgery and permanent damage over time. Then you want to consider your own skill level and condition first. So never compare yourself to other people. Always focus on yourself. If you find that you are jealous of other people and their flexibility, it will never help you. Your journey entirely involves you and how you can help yourself and what you can do to stay consistent and patient. Then you want to use your legs to lessen the load on your back. So they should be where you're sinking your weight, not your back. And then you want to keep your head centered because of the weight of it. Keeping your head helps you level and centered, helps you to center your gravity as well. You want to also avoid leaning backwards. Always maintain good posture. Use your attention to move your body as a unit. You need to be mindful of your body. Don't travel too far away from your foundation, meaning like wavering your weight. And then Also, make sure that you move with symmetry and that you stretch your body parts with good balance. So that means don't just stretch your hamstrings because you want to increase your range of motion for your split. You're going to have to stretch all the body parts and relax all the body parts. There are the ones that you mainly focus on or where you would particularly need to gain flexibility, but then there are other ones that help but aren't in the front row as far as getting better at it. So next, I'd like to share with you some factors that would alter your ability to be flexible, or that would have some things that you can't change, rather, when it comes to becoming flexible. There are some people that are naturally inclined to be able to do a split better, and some of those things would be conditioning, perhaps at a young age, like maybe through a sport or some other activity like martial arts or dancing or acrobatics, gymnastics. And even as they age, they don't lose their flexibility as much as someone who has maybe never stretched before in their life. Another thing to consider is that some people are hypermobile, meaning that their joints have a greater range of motion than the average person, and so therefore it is easier for them to stretch and to get into certain positions. So other things to consider are injuries. If you've ever had like a severe injury, perhaps to the knee or hip, would be some, maybe even ones that you may not realize would have affected you in such long term. These things can affect your ability to get into a full split. Like if you had to get surgery on your knees in your youth because you did play a sport and you hurt yourself, even though it may not hasn't haunted you since, it might come to haunt you now that you are trying to do the splits. So these are other factors that we can't change, and also age is a factor. So as we age, our body loses its fluidity and it loses its ability to be elastic and to stretch, and it is important to stretch as you become older because it helps to prevent injury. But they say if you don't use it, you lose it, and that's how it is. So otherwise, you should know that it could, even depending on where you start, it could take up to a year to be able to do the split, and that is with consistent practice. Sometimes it takes even longer, and for some people it also can take less. So never feel discouraged from learning. Always be patient, and when you hit plateaus, realize it is your body's way of letting you know that it wants to be challenged more, and that if you stay consistent, you will come over that hump. So I hope you found these tips helpful, and thank you for watching my video. Please check out more of my other videos on YouTube under Wellness by Elizabeth, and like, subscribe, and share. Also, I'd like to mention that I have a how to do the splits stretching routine or workout that goes hand in hand with this video. So thank you for watching.